Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and we've gotten some updated information regarding Tom Taylor's return to the Injustice universe. Came out the last few days. In fact, a few comic books did. And here to talk with me about Injustice 0 Year is my good friend Perch. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, so Taylor has a new book out. That's great.
Before we get to that, I do want to say, if you've been visiting the channel or you're new here and you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? It's time to subscribe to Thinking Critical YouTube. Give this video a thumbs up if you like the content here. If you think we're a couple of idiots, we're a couple of rubes, give us an enormous thumbs down and let us know in the comments section below. We love hearing feedback, so we can always improve the channel. And if you like what Perch brings to the table, he's got his own YouTube channel where he's dropping 2 or 3 videos daily all about the comic book industry. You can find a link to his channel in the video description. There's also going to be an opportunity at the end of the video for you to click on an icon and subscribe that way. Now getting to the business at hand, obviously we knew during the Comic-Con at Home happenings that were going on, Tom Taylor was releasing some teaser images kind of things on Twitter, basically hinting that he was going to be visiting the Injustice universe. We also got the letters JSA, and it turns out we're getting Injustice 0 Year, which feels like an odd place to go for this series.
It is. Now, I think, there's a couple things here. I think, first off, Tom Taylor has really carved out a good niche for himself where he does these Elseworlds or kind of out-of-continuity stories, and that seems to be his sweet spot. His Deceased is doing great. His Injustice was well-received. Even his Dark Ages at Marvel looks like it's got some interest. That's clearly where he shines, and so it's good that he's kind of found his spot and is going there. This one, going back to the Injustice series is a smart move. It was well received. Fans liked it. Everything was great. Doing a kind of a 0 year prequel style is kind of odd, though, because isn't the kind of the prequel to the Injustice world just the regular DC universe? I'm not sure exactly what there is to play with there, and kind of the key thing that anchored the Injustice series was Superman. What would happen if he took matters into his own hands, and how would that rearrange the world, and what would that look like? So I'm sure there's a hook there, some time travel. Who knows what's going on? But it is an odd choice. But I have some optimism for it.
Obviously, his Deceased universe has been fantastic. I'm starting to read up on this Injustice 0 Year because there's actually 3 issues already came out. I think they all came out on like the first day. I think that was an interesting tactic for DC to use. They're doing something else with these DC Digital First, and I'm very supportive of this program. I know there are some retailers that might not like this being offered as a digital-only property. It will probably release in trades in time. I think it's great. There's a fantastic price point on it. So if DC needs to whet people's appetite to get over to digital, try it out, see if that may be a format. It might not be the preferred format, but a format that they can go and consume comic books on, especially for a price tag like $1. Fantastic price. But I also like that they're changing the actual size and format of the comic book to where it is specifically designed for a tablet or a phone use, where the page sizes are different. And it feels like DC is putting a concerted effort into this and probably doing some things the right way and hopefully innovating some of the ways that comic books that are created specifically for digital are done in the future.
Yeah, I like the fact that they're making it feel like a different product. They're doing stuff that feels relevant for digital. It fits the platform. I've been supportive of this. I think you need to have both things going on. I think you need to have a intelligent approach, a strategy to digital, and this makes sense. And so it also makes sense with these Elseworld tales to really go all in on digital and use it as another way to separate yourself from the main product, so people don't get confused. It's just, I think this is a good experiment to have. Now, I know some people, because I've asked on my channel a lot, if companies went all digital or they started doing a lot of things digital, would you be out? Resoundingly, a lot of people said they would be, that they just will not go to that format. I get it, completely understand. People like to hold comics, and that's relevant. It kills the collector's market. All that stuff is true. However, digital is a fact of life, that there is a platform there and there is a way for people to consume comics there. So the best way to approach it is to try some new things, to try some different properties. And I think I think DC is doing it very smart right now where digital is concerned.
Yeah, because when you think about the comic book market, it is limited by your access to comic book shops. Essentially, you can get graphic novels and things like that from bookstores, but if you want access to the most recent stories of Batman, Superman, a lot of these big characters, also in Marvel, Spider-Man, Hulk, you actually need to access to your comic book shop, or you have to have them sent by mail. You have added shipping costs, things like that. They show up late, everything's spoiled. In theory, having a platform on digital where people can go there and get comics opens up, your audience to the world, right? You're no longer limited by your location and its proximity to an actual comic book shop. So I think it is absolutely worth the time, the investment of money in this medium, because it's future. It's important not just to the future of DC Comics, but really to the entire comic book industry. If people start reading comics because of it's digital, and then they start getting excited, maybe they get into collecting, and then they do visit comic shops. So it probably is going to be a win for everybody if it hits.
Yeah, I mean, if they do it right, I mean, if you think about this, and these titles, they're a little shorter, they've got a different format, they're coming out faster. It's a different world, and it's a story kind of written in that format. I mean, the other part is this Year Zero and some of the other Injustice stuff that happened before. It was written with digital in mind, so it was the whole story pacing was different. It was designed for this kind of very quick release format. So it's a different product, but it becomes a great marketing product for people who are new to comics to say, hey, I kind of like this. I'd like to go in. My first step might be to buy the physical trade when it's printed. And my next step is actually just to step into the core universe. It provides you an entryway in. I don't know if that will work, but again, the point, and I've made it before, is that you got to try something. I mean, the worst strategy is just kind of close your eyes and just pretend nothing will ever change and just hope that that things will go okay.
Blockbuster, right?
Yeah, exactly. You become Blockbuster. So maybe digital grows, maybe it doesn't. Who knows? But just sitting back idly and hoping for the best is a bad move. So I think these attempts are worthwhile. It's smart to try. It's smart to see what's out there and understand your market. That's smart for DC to be doing right now. Regardless of whether you love digital or hate digital, would never go to it. It's them testing the waters to try and understand what audience is out there. And I mean, all of us want that. So it's a good thing. And then back to this issue, I think it's a little bit of an odd pitch, but I do have some confidence it's going to come together. Like you, I think Tom Taylor's attempt in the main continuity universe and things over in Marvel, like with X-Men Red, was odd, to put it mildly. But this stuff seems to be what he's great at, and it's working.
It is working, and it is interesting. I reviewed Batman 96 on the channel yesterday, and I came away like it was a very interesting issue. I was like, man, a lot of this stuff is relevant. What James Tynion is putting in Batman is really relevant to what we're experiencing in the world here today. I was like, I don't know if he specifically intended it for me to take it this way, but that's how I'm kind of taking it. And I'm kind of getting that vibe out of Tom Taylor's Injustice 0 Year as well. I read the first issue, and he starts talking about I believe it's Superman that's kind of given this monologue. And this is what he says, that I was not shocked, but it was very interesting. And like I said, very relevant to what we're experiencing right now. I don't think Tom Taylor expects me to, or wanted me to take it this way. This is what he had to say. To remind us that tyranny often starts with the words we want to hear, that promises can be eroded and corrupted by power. The criticism should be heeded and amplified, not silenced, that an ideology should never trump the lives and freedom of the rights of all people. I think it should have been different if they were still here talking about the JSA. But doesn't that feel like what we're experiencing right now? Like, do you think Tom Taylor is trying to provide social commentary on everything we're experiencing, but not being so direct that everybody can kind of relate to it?
Yeah, I definitely think he likes doing social commentary in his book. So absolutely, it's no coincidence that those words feel familiar. I think he definitely has kind of an ideology that he subscribes to, for sure. So I think that commentary is probably really aimed at one group over another, but it is, he is trying to weave it into his stories. In some cases, like with X-Men Red, it was pretty clunky how that was done in the past. But with Injustice in the past, he handled it with a lot more I would say, grace and nuance. So, which is weird to say for a book where Superman is running around killing people, but still, it was handled a little bit more delicately. And this book, I looked at the first issue, and I'm with you. It feels like he's matured as a writer a bit, and he's trying to paint a good story. Now, like I said, I think that some people will not like the direction he goes. I think he definitely has his favorites. I think he is definitely no fan of the current U.S. administration, and I'm sure that will be reflected in the comics. But we will see.
We will see. But like I said, I found it very interesting. There's something I could relate to all the words, just all the things that I'm witnessing and experiencing. Like, I'm glad that he had a deft enough hand where he just wasn't so on the mark. Where, like I said, everyone could relate to it.
Yeah, and I mean that's what you hope for with writers, right? I mean that they can make these kinds of stories and they can draw these kinds of analogies, and it's not banging over the head with with a point, or it's it does allow more people than just one small audience to be drawn in and kind of take some meaning from things. So I think that's great. I hope he keeps it up, and I have a lot of optimism for where this series can go.
So we do know that Deceased Hope at World's End ended up being kind of like a prequel before the actual sequel to Deceased came out, which is obviously Dead Planet. It's coming out right now. Do you think this is a precursor for another ongoing series about injustice?
Yeah, I think yes. I do think that we'll get continual injustice, and maybe it'll be one ongoing series, or maybe it'll be just constant little runs within that universe. But I think DC is going to do a lot more with Injustice as a property that did really well for them. They had some good outside sponsorship. I think with Activision, was it Activision that connected to anyway with the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a lot there that I mean, this universe are going to continue to milk and expand, and we have not seen the last of it by any stretch of the imagination. So we'll definitely see more.
Well, Perch, I do appreciate your perspective on Tom Taylor's Injustice Zero Year. I would talk about the artist, but it seems like there's a new artist on every issue. Some kind of a trend for DC Comics with their digital first titles.
Yeah, that is true. It's another way I think they're trying to separate themselves from physical. And at least we heard way back when this started that they were going to try and keep artists on the printed runs longer and do more shuffling with digital as just a kind of a strategy. And I got to say, I love that strategy. I would rather see the printed comics, the main continuity titles, keep their creative teams longer. I think that would be a great thing. And so, having the art mix up on digital, I think is just one more way that they differentiate between the two products.
Like I said, thank you very much for your time, Perch. And if you enjoyed what Perch brought to the channel here today and you haven't subscribed to his channel, right now or in a few seconds, you should have an opportunity to click on a nice big icon that says Comics by Perch. I definitely recommend you do that because you're going to want to consume all the great comic book content on that channel as well. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.